You know, for a holiday, this has been a busy time in Washington as the negotiations surrounding that looming fiscal cliff come to a fever pitch just before the new year. But this is also a time of tradition and celebration in the nation's capital. And nobody decks the halls like the team at the White House for Christmas. Christmas has come to mean a special visit every year, not just from Santa Claus, but from ABC's own Barbara Walters. Barbara?
Terry, in what has become one of my favorite holiday traditions, for the fourth year, I had the privilege of interviewing the President and Mrs. Obama at the White House. This interview was taped days before the tragic shooting in Connecticut and was postponed until now. It was the first time the couple sat down together since winning re-election. And Mrs. Obama also took me on a personal tour of what is called the People's House. And it's never more true than during the Christmas season. After Thanksgiving, more than 80 volunteers from nearly 40 states descend on the White House, trimming 54 trees, plus every nook and cranny. First dog Bo is the star of the show. Here he is, inspecting the decorations, including this larger-than-life model of himself, made of 20,000 pom-poms. My friend
Bo, yes, he's very big in relation to this house.
This 300-pound gingerbread White House was the first stop on my exclusive behind-the-scenes tour with First Lady Michelle Obama. These are various rooms in the actual White House.
Absolutely. And the details in these rooms are just beyond this year.
But why peer into these windows when I can see the real thing?
Come on, Bo.
Does he follow you around all day? Next stop, the Red Room, festooned with cranberries and fruit trees.
For Christmas alone, we're going to have more than 90,000 people come through these doors.
How many hands do you shake at Christmas time?
Oh, thousands.
Show me how you do it without getting a...
You know me. This is usually...
But I know, I love that, but you can't do that with everyone.
Hugs. I almost do.
And then in the center of the White House, the Blue Room, with the official White House tree.
This is the Joining Forces tree. It's the main tree here, the biggest tree.
How beautiful.
And the special thing about this tree, Barbara, is that the ornaments are handmade messages from military kids who live in bases all around the world. This one says, "Love you, Dad. Safe travels."
Lovely.
So when visitors come, they can read these messages and, you know, just remember what these children are sacrificing during this time. This is one of my favorite trees. Look how big the tree is.
Earlier, the First Lady had invited some military families to see the unveiling of the ornaments and to make some holiday sweets.
And did you guys taste these?
Yeah.
This is good.
We had kids, they were decorating cookies, and they were so focused until I brought in Bo.
We got another surprise.
They are more excited to see Bo than they are to see me or the president.
In fact, Bo is the only one on the White House Christmas card this year, and his paw print is alongside the First Family's signatures. What is Bo getting for Christmas?
Oh, Bo, well, since he's right there, let's talk quietly so that he doesn't know. I think he's going to get a couple of more plush toys. But don't tell him.
I wouldn't say a word. But there would be no such restrictions when I sat down with the President and Mrs. Obama for their first joint interview since the election. After a decisive victory, they were riding a new wave of popularity, and the campaign seemed to have brought them even closer together. Mr. President, Mrs. Obama, there is a photograph of you that went viral, became the most shared photograph in the history of Twitter. Here it is. When you look at this picture, what do you think? At what point was it taken?
I think we were campaigning in Iowa.
So why were you hugging her so hard in Iowa?
Because I love my wife.
Well, and also I hadn't seen him in a while. I mean, you know, when you're campaigning, we're two ships passing in the night. And the first time I saw him was when I walked on stage to greet him. And that's my honey giving me a hug.
I'm giving you hugs.
How do you keep the fire going?
That's a good question.
Yeah, you know, we've been married now 20 years, and you know, like every marriage, I think you have your ups and you have your downs. But if you've worked through the tough times, the respect and love that you feel deepens.
And then there's a lot of laughter, you know.
And you're funnier.
Yeah, for the most part.
Everybody thinks she's pretty funny.
For the most
I'm funnier than people think.
Yeah, you are.
That may be. You may be funnier than people think. When the election was so close, everybody was saying it's so close, did you have a moment in which you said, we may lose the election? And then, where do we live? Do we stay on in Washington? What do we do about the girls' schools? Did you have to ponder any of that?
The girls definitely will ask the question, well, what happens if Dad loses? And the thing that we just tried to instill in them was that, you know what, we were fine before we were here, and we're going to be fine no matter what happens.
I want to talk a bit about the girls. We have been watching them grow up from little girls to young ladies. Now, Malia recently got her first cell phone. Do you monitor it and see who she calls or who she texts?
I give my daughter at this age, I give her a long rope, you know, and there is monitoring because we have rules, but monitoring may be, you never know when I'm going to walk in your room, and I'm going to definitely ask you, who are you talking to, and are you talking about schoolwork? But
and they're not very good at lying. We joke sometimes about how, you know, Malia's getting to the age now, and boys start calling, and
yes.
you know, sort of. I always talk about how one of the main incentives for running again was continuing Secret Service protections, so that there are men with guns around at all times.
Mr. President, boys can call the White House and say, "May I speak to Malia?" and they get put.
Well, that's part of the challenge with cell phones these days. It used to be you had to
phone and call and Mr. Obama, it's
so and so.
May I speak to your daughter?
Right.
Those days are gone.
Will you let Malia date yet?
Look, she's you know, she's a teenager, and she's going to start at some point. You know, being interested in.
Our goal has been to try to make sure that their lives here is normal,
as normal
as they can be.
Right. Whatever they could do in Chicago, they should be able to do here.
Yeah.